Hello, everybody. I forgot to add the button that says I'm live in the stream. So, a little bit behind by 7 minutes. That's perfect. 7 minutes late is exactly the way I like to be. You can't ask for better. So, happy Halloween to you, Dante. Uh, and happy Halloween to all of you. So, out there in internet land. Mm. And now I can actually officially get this joint started. It's funny because it's now 7:30 basically for all intents and purposes. Uh, and there's not a whole lot of trick or treaters left anymore. They're mostly done. I would say realistically, they try to get done. I think they try to get done no later than 8, but most of them by 7 nowadays. And it's funny because I have these two beasts. I don't know if you heard, like on cue. I mean, I love them dearly, but they bark at every tiny little thing. And they bark like it's funny because they're just a couple of sweethearts, brother and sister, but bark like they're gonna tear your throat out. So I mean, like just it would be. I could only imagine and remember what it was like when I was a kid to walk up to the house that had those dogs. Right? You're like, you don't even want to ring the doorbell. And as soon as you do, these two just go off. I say this because it's an obstacle that I have to overcome. Dante, we'll talk about that later. Um, no, but on a very serious note, is not. I wouldn't say a very serious note, but the reality is, if you don't turn that damn light off, they come. And rather than having them hit the doorbells, every 2 or 3 seconds, we put the bowl out there, and it's going to take one or two treats and move on. It never works because inevitably you have the dickhead teens, which I was one of, that run around ahead of the younger kids, and just kill. And I mean, they absolutely kill, houses like ours. But it's either do that and have at least something out for most people, or the dogs. And the dogs are just crazy. Like it's totally crazy. The kids would become petrified. So, um, that was the first part of the day. Let's go back to here's one that I'm only just now learning, and it's funny because did not, I didn't know this. Why that is, I didn't hold the information. I'm sure that I heard this because I know I've heard the story of Halloween, but I did not know that it originated. Its true origin was what's the word in Ireland. Oops. Here's fresh coffee. Oh, I gotta do my clock too. I just realized something, and everything happens for a reason. Acorns were rather low. All right, so there we go. And that's fresh, boy. That's too hot. I'm gonna put that to the side. I did bring my dab rig tonight so that I could dab with you folks, as well as have my Jaybird. But that coffee, I'm telling you, too hot to trot. So again, the origin. I did not know that Halloween originated in Ireland. I thought that was rather. I still don't know the full story, and I want to look more because now I've heard bits and pieces. Right. But it is my understanding that there was witches involved in the original Halloween. So, but I'll have to look it up. That's not what I did the show about tonight. I did the show to say Happy Halloween, and also let people know that I am still here. I'm doing fine. I'm just extremely busy. One day I may actually shave again. I don't know if I'm going to grow the beard. My wife told me the other day, she's like, if you don't grow or if you don't shave anymore, by the time Christmas gets here, you could be Santa Claus. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Speaking of Santa Claus, just on a side note for everybody, technically now is the time, if you haven't already started, now is the time to start buying those Christmas gifts. I kid you not. Like, it is going to sneak up on all of us, and the next thing you know, you're like, it's Christmas. Every year, I try and try every year to have it all done before Christmas night. Inevitably, I never do. We end up staying on Christmas Eve. It is very common for my wife and I to like try to lay down and go to sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, like just 2 hours away from when the kids and the family are going to be, And sad enough, many times, I will admit it, many times my wife is doing more than me, but I usually helped in other ways more than that. Like I went out, got it all, and typically do the hunting online as well as in person. She does contribute some, but it's about that same ratio. Like her wrapping and all that, she does the bulk of the wrapping, and then we both, set it out for Christmas morning. Now I'll get to try a cup of the blazing hot fresh. There we go. Good. What was I going to say? There was something totally not interesting that I was going to speak about. Oh, that's right. So before I got on, a friend of mine asked me to talk about overcoming obstacles. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I've been in sales all my life. And part of the approach in sales that we have is called overcoming objections. And really, the funny thing is, if you look at it, obstacles is just a different word for it, because quite frankly, if you have an objection, that is an obstacle that you've got to overcome, right? I think one of the best ways that I have found to truly overcome an obstacle, right, is number one, try to look at it as not an obstacle, but a gift. And what I mean by that is, even if it's, let's say it's a personal, because I know the guy was talking about, it's an obstacle within that's keeping you from doing what you want to do. One thing that I have found, now this doesn't always work, and I'll give you an example of that. And what I mean by that is, what I have found to work usually works. It just, there's always that time, and I don't know how to say this other than what it is. There's always that time where nothing works, and you just have to go through it, right? That's usually, the most painful way. But there's a reason for everything. There's a reason that if you cannot overcome it with some of the traditional ways, which I'm going to go over, then you just have to go through it, right? Number one, the first thing is, like I said, look at it as a gift. And if you look at it as a gift, then you're like, okay, how can I use this? Because if it's a gift, then the obstacle is actually something that ultimately can work in your favor. And I truly believe that. In sales, we had a rule, and if you're talking to yourself, your hardest, you are your most difficult customer, right? And if you're talking to yourself, then you're trying to convince yourself easily of something, but I have found that's sometimes the most difficult. But if you look at it as a gift, the obstacle that is, how can this benefit me? Very simply put, right? So The first one is look as a gift. The second one is look at it in the sense of how can I, and I hate to use the word use because you're not using it, but in essence, it is using it. How can I force this to benefit my situation? Now, that doesn't always work. And if it doesn't, then, I would say the one that I do next and most often is literally self-hypnosis. I have come to believe and know that I'm dealing with my subconscious. There's me, there's my subconscious. And the only time we ever really meet is during dreams, right? And even then, it's real fleeting and strange. We all know that. But because that is the time when I find myself able to most effectively communicate with my subconscious, I try to go to bed, literally in my mind, just repeating, "Hey man, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Seriously, we gotta come on and have a smoke session here soon, man. I'd love to have you." Um, but as I go to bed, but being the subconscious and working with the subconscious, once I go to bed and I'm lying there in bed, like I'm actually laying there, and I start repeating a thought to myself of what I want to accomplish or what I want to change. This also works if it's an obstacle, then you repeat to yourself how you're going to overcome it. And not just that you're going to, but you can say, by doing this, right? But it's literally a form of self hypnosis, and you're repeating it in your head as you fall asleep. Now, I found that works quite well when the first one, because it's not always easy when it's an obstacle to you to go, how can this benefit me? But every obstacle has and he was, my friend was not asking the specifics of how to overcome one. What do I do to execute the solution? Now, one thing that I do in order to have that self-conscious self-hypnosis that you do at bedtime, you do have to find a solution. And one of the ways that I best find a solution, I know this is going to sound funny, but I did this. If I'm not the problem, there is no solution, right? So funny enough, the first part, you look at it as a gift. The second part, you look at it, if you're having trouble and you look at it that way, well, the way to overcome solution is to find its benefit and change it. So, in the easiest of terms, it's all self, and I would say self hypnosis, but it's what's the word? It's right there. Self persuasion. Self persuasion, because I don't like manipulation, although it does work in this because it's manipulation. But um, I rather I prefer the word persuade. I think it's a more positive word. Just persuade, positive. It just sounds more positive. But no. So first thing you do is look at it as a gift. How is this a gift? The second thing you do is figure out the solution and repeat that at night. And the way you figure out the solution, it's a side note, is if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. When you look things from that angle and from that perspective, you will find many times the solution presents itself quite, I don't want to say easy, I'll go simple, and the solution presents itself in a quite simple, straightforward manner. It's not always easy to do it. That was my point. So it's funny because it is so quiet in here that for those little seconds that I don't talk, my ears are ringing so loud because I've been dealing with tinnitus for, that's the name of it, right? Tinnitus. No. Is it? Tinnitus in the ear. It is. And somebody will probably correct me if I'm wrong. It's okay. But anyway, that ring in the ear, man, I tell you what, when I don't talk, like the bells not going off back there, it's just, and it's funny because when people deal with this, I could see how, and I'm not going crazy, but I see how some people go crazy from it because it's constant. But it's funny, it's not constant. You know, it is right now because I'm focused on it. But later on, woo. I had to put that out, but I didn't burn the carpet at all. But it did flick into my eye. That literally felt like. Does you remember the Usual Suspects when homeboy flicks a cigarette into the other dude's face? I can't think of the name. It was the guy that was in the mask that ended up putting the mask on later. He flicks a cigarette and says, "Get off my something." I think he says, "Get off my cock" or something like that. To the Baldwin brother that was in that, which I'm pretty sure it's Steven who was in that. Jeez, that's sad. I've got no. Anyway, he flicks the cigarette, and it was supposed to just go by or near or whatever. And they all, everybody agreed to him doing it, but it flicked and it hits homeboy like right in the face. You can tell, you can actually tell it because it hits him in the face and they immediately cut to, excuse me, because that was where it was an accident. So as soon as it happened, people started going, "You okay?" All like good jazz. Oh. So, overcoming obstacles. Again, you know what? I'll do a dab since I lost the rest of my. It's funny. I'm gonna have to vacuum though because the weed. The weed. Look at that. That's how much. All that's gone. See, that's just all that weed came out on the floor. So that's awesome. All right. Number one, change your way of thinking. Number two, change your way of thinking again. Number three, continue to change your way of thinking. Right? No, I'm teasing. And I'm not. The first thing that you really do when looking at it, putting that positive spin is to see it from a different angle. And that is to change your mindset, you know. And in order to change your mindset, you have to kind of go into it going, okay, I know I'm going to persuade myself to believe it like this rather than see it the way I normally would. And if I wasn't so gosh darn high, I would give you an example. And what I mean by that is a visceral life example. That's just not going to happen right now. There's too much ringing in the ears for that. I'm going to do this dab and then, funny enough is I have to run to the Wally World and pick up another Walmart order like so many of us do. Amazing how much money I give to Wally. So that wasn't low at all now, was it? So again, in the first part, you're really changing your mindset. In the second part, you're accepting that the whole thing with if I'm not the problem, there's no solution. That concept is realizing that all the change is within you. It always is, right? If something's happening, then you don't put yourself in that position anymore. And I'm not talking about playing victims or anything like that. I'm just talking about it. I really believe that anything that we have experienced, we ultimately put ourselves there. That's just the simple ins and outs of it. At least that's how I see it. also, if you take responsibility for it like that, it allows you to let me start over. You take ownership of it, right? And it's kind of funny because you stop you stop blaming other people when you take ownership. Because when you take ownership, you are not blaming anybody else. You are finding a way that is with your power to change it, right? This is very similar for anybody who watched Tron or knows some of the ancient Easter beliefs, but this is very similar to the concept of removing yourself from the equation, right? When you truly understand that you have, yeah, I like that. There you go. That's a good one. I just saw it, Dante. When you discover your core purpose, that absolutely helps. And I think that when you discover your core purpose, what you do is you allow yourself to admire who you are and what you're doing. And that's, I say that because if you don't, then it's a problem. And if you don't look at yourself, admire and love for what you're doing, and not egotistically like, oh, I'm the shit. That's not what I'm talking about. But, oh, wow, man, I really had a great day because I did this for this person. I did that for this person. Like those type of feelings, if you will. I did not have my glasses, so I know I took a bigger dab than I normally would last time because I saw it sizzling. Try to go a little smaller. That's what she said. So again, remove yourself from the equation is very much like, if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. And really the whole point is that once you take ownership of it, the solution almost always comes immediately. I mean, it's really funny because that's what I mean. Like, it's very simple. Doesn't mean that it's an easy solution, but solution presents itself like the moment that you decide and take ownership of, hey, this is, if I am not the problem, then there is no solution, right? And it's not blaming yourself. A lot of people hear that, and I've tried to explain it. It's not. It is not blaming you. What it really is showing you just how much in control of your own life you are. The more that you realize how much control you have, even though it may not seem like you do, and I know there's a lot of people go to governments and type of control. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how much you control it, and even then, how much you control where your life goes and the boundaries that you have set. And we all know those. I'll tell you one thing on a side note to the person who I know is listening. Setting boundaries is extremely important, and I'm glad you did that. There, that one was not so hacky sacky. All right, so number 3, by the way, is pretty simple, because this one is the one that usually doesn't happen, because between 1 and 2 you typically find not only the solution to your obstacle, but means to overcome it. What I would say is that when all else fails, well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. Number 3, let me back up. You should absolutely pray. But the prayer is not for necessarily those who are not religious, because I know a lot of people are, some people are spiritual, some people are atheists, and some people are straight atheists, some people are agnostic, whatever. what my point is, oh, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man? No reason to even worry about it. Don't sweat. Don't sweat. Had to miss trick. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, did you? You're the only one, of course. Oh, there you go for purge. It's hysterical. Um, oh, he got me. So hold on, I'll get it. So the third one, technically, it really. And let me change all that. You've been watching. Go back and look. Number one should be pray, and if you do not believe in God, praying is not only about religion. Praying is part of that whole giving it to the universe. And here's what I've found. Even if you do not believe in a God per se, but you believe maybe in karma, or you simply believe in the universe because it is what it is, the universe is more powerful than you. And to think, what I have found is once you realize that the universe is listening, then you talk to it, right? So the first thing you do is speak what you want and the problem, and ask for the solution, right? So you ask for the solution, period. Number two, you turn it into a gift, right? Number three, number three is literally figuring out the solution, but that's when you say the phrase, if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. So you're taking, let's just call number three, taking control and taking ownership of the problem. When you do, you don't have to worry about, oh, somebody has to do this or somebody has to do that. All you got to do is what you need to do, and you will overcome it. It doesn't depend on someone else. You understand? What do we got here? Oh yeah, you did. I love you too, man. Um, so really, when all else fails, so we got 1, 2, and 3. When all else fails, um, you know, just feel it and sit through it. Like sit down and focus on the fact that it may suck or whatever it is, and that it's okay. And what I mean by, you know, if you do the other things and you haven't found a solution, then it's obviously a really, really hard thing. So you simply have to let it go and realize that sometimes you will not get the answer. We are not perfect. We are humans. And the last thing that we are is perfect. We are far from it. In fact, I remind people constantly that the only reason we have all the things we have now is all the jackasses that made all those mistakes for millennia and gave us what we have, right? So we are not perfect. And sometimes you just have to sit through it and be like, okay, this sucks. Like the old Parks and Rec one, this sucks. Sometimes that's all you can do. So, having said all that, Joe, I'm glad you made it in time to see me. I'm getting ready to take off. I love all of you folks. Here, we'll put that white up there for just a second. Oh no, let's make it red. Since it's Halloween, we'll make it red. What was I going to say? There was something I was going to say. Oh, I remember. Of course. I love all you guys. Today is Tuesday, so no, I'll be back on tomorrow because Wednesday is the 1st. So I'll be on Wednesday and Friday, November 3rd. By the way, someone asked me to watch something and I did. So you know who you are when I say this, but I have watched now the first couple episodes of it, and it was really fun. But then again, I'm a fan of the first show. The first show was called Letterkenny, and maybe there's others, but there's Letterkenny, and then there's also a cartoon that they did, and now they have a show called Shoresy, and it is effing hysterical, and it's been out for a while. I'm just now finding out of it, but I'll tell you, it's what I have watched far has been quite enjoyable. So I'll give a full investigation once I finish the because I believe it has a season 2 now. So anywho, love all of you. Each of you are incredibly special. You're incredibly important. Please know that and remember that. Part of what you need to do in this world is understand that. And then when you do, you will absolutely love yourself, and then you will respect yourself, and then you will live a decent life because you will understand that nothing else really matters. It's the truth. I love all you guys. See you tomorrow. Peace.
I switch here, I'm a strange fuck. Consist on ain't something I could say well. Fill my change into the wishing for a change well. Wish a day a swell life for the next come. And when the next come, pretend that it's the best one. Like I ain't even gonna try and say that to the next one.